Welcome to Super Bowl 58 Fantasy Pros. My name is Andrew Erickson, aka the Props Prophet. Today I'm coming at you with my favorite player props on PrizePicks for Super Bowl 58. Now last week, 4-6, got some disappointments from guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brandon Ayuk, but we're going to bounce back here for Super Bowl Sunday. As always, if you don't like my picks, you want more action, make sure you go check out the props over on the Betting Pros PrizePicks cheat sheet for PrizePicks for sportsbooks. Has all the props based on projections that you can find. Great tool. I use it every single time when I'm looking at props for potential bets and on PrizePicks. Now, essentially, what you're looking at here is Patrick Mahomes. You can get a freebie on his PrizePicks this week if he just goes over a half yard. So it's the perfect way to start things off. Now, with that being said, let's dive in. My top 10 early PrizePicks player projections for Super Bowl 58. Brock Purdy, less than 248.5 passing yards. I'm leaning heavily towards the under on Purdy's passing yardage set at 248.5 passing yards in Super Bowl 58. The Chiefs' pass defense has held Tua Tagovailoa and Josh Allen to sub 200-yard passing yards in 2 of the last 3 weeks. Only one quarterback their first-team defense has faced in the last 5 weeks has gone for more than 200 yards through the air. 7 of the last 10 quarterbacks they have faced have gone under their projected passing yards. And since week 14, they've allowed just 2 quarterbacks to pass for over 200 passing yards against them. Brock Purdy has only tossed 250 yards 3 times away from home this season. Conversely, I much rather prefer Brock Purdy more than on his rushing at 11.5 rushing yards. Purdy flashed a new dimension to the 49ers running game in the NFC Championship game, notching 48 rushing yards on just 5 carries, highlighting his mobility and ability to escape pressure. He has 14 or more rushing yards in both his postseason starts this year, so I'm leaning towards the more than on his 11.5 rushing yards prop. The Chiefs have faced the most rushing attempts and red zone touches from quarterbacks this season. They've also allowed 3 of the last 4 quarterbacks to go over their rushing yard projection, including 25 rushing yards at least to each of those 4 quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes, less than 26.5 rushing yards. We like the over on Purdy's, but I like the under, the less than on Patrick Mahomes. Look, Mahomes flashed his mobility on the ground, 6 carries last week, but only had 15 rushing yards. Many expect Mahomes to soar over his rushing yards in the Super Bowl just based on how he usually runs more in the postseason. But as we pointed out last week, taking the under on Jared Goff, the 49ers don't allow a ton of rushing production to quarterbacks. Given that the 49ers do not blitz, posting the 3rd lowest blitz rate this year, it's an easy under to smash for Patrick Mahomes. 8 of the last 10 quarterbacks San Francisco has played have gone under the rushing yards projection. Mahomes is under 26.5 rushing yards in his last 2 playoff games. He's also gone under in 5 of his last 7 postseason games played. So I'm going to take the less than 26.5 rushing yards, Patrick Mahomes. But I'm not taking the less than on this rushing prop, Christian McCaffrey, more than 88.5 rushing yards. McCaffrey led the ground game last week with 20 carries for 90 yards against an elite Lions defense. He found the end zone twice. He also showcased his versatility and power. Went 4 for 42 through the air on 5 targets. I just love the over here on McCaffrey's rushing yardage. 88.5 is just the obvious, safest way to build around this 49ers offense. Look, he's gone over in 8 of his last 10 games played, and the one game he didn't is because of injury. So even though the Ravens inexplicably didn't run the ball on the Chiefs, seriously, Todd Monken, I expect Run CMC to be at the forefront of the 49ers offensive attack in Super Bowl 58 after the Chiefs defense was gashed by Buffalo to the tune of 182 rushing yards just a few weeks back. Another rushing prop I really like here, Isaiah Pacheco, more than 68.5 rushing yards. Pacheco carried the ball 24 times on a 79% snap share, grounding out 68 hard-fought yards, punching into touchdown, showcasing his resilience against a tough defensive line in the AFC Championship game. I expect Pacheco to keep getting fed as a rusher, so I'm looking at the over 68.5 rushing yards prop for Super Bowl Sunday. He has 89 or more rushing yards in 3 of his last 4 games, 60 or more rushing yards in 7 of his last 9 games played. And I understand that he's going to have to rip off some explosive runs against the defense that has been traditionally stout versus the run, but just not recently. The last 2 weeks, the 49ers have been gashed, allowing over 100 rushing yards per game to opposing running backs between Aaron Jones and David Montgomery. They had been much better before this, allowing fewer than 50 rushing yards to 7 of the last 8 running backs, but the recency of how bad they've been against the run, I think Pacheco is going to absolutely eat in this matchup, especially based on how much they are feeding their second-year running back. More than 16.5 carries in 3 of his last 4 games and half of his last 10 contests. Because I just love Pacheco through all facets, I'm going to take the more than on his fantasy points. 15 fantasy points for me, Isaiah Pacheco, more than. Because I also love his potential as a receiver in this matchup. If you look at what he did in the AFC Championship game, caught all 4 of his targets for 14 yards. The last 6 of 11 running backs to face the 49ers have gone over their receiving yards prop. Aaron Jones had 6 targets 2 weeks ago. Jahmyr Gibbs had 6 targets last week. So he's going to see targets in this game. The 49ers allowing the 8th most yards, 3rd most targets, and 6th most catches to running backs this season. Also, the last 5 running backs, RB1s that our 49ers have faced, have posted at least 70 offensive yards from scrimmage. So give me the Pacheco overs on his receiving yards, 17.5, yards from scrimmage at 90, and his fantasy points. 82 plus yards from scrimmage in 4 straight games, 14 receiving yards in back-to-back games. So for me, how do I capture this all in one prop on PrizePicks? It's just take the more than 15 fantasy points, which he has gone over in 4 straight games. Travis Kelce, more than 70.5 receiving yards. Mahomes' connection with tight end Travis Kelce was particularly effective in the AFC Championship game, as Kelce reeled in all 11 of his targets, 30% target share, thrown his way, amassing 116 yards and scoring the team's lone receiving touchdown. He had 10 catches in the first half alone. Kelce is on a straight heater with 3 straight games of 70-plus receiving yards. Given how great and consistent he is in the postseason, hard to imagine he's not going for more than 70 receiving yards in his 4th straight game in the Super Bowl. He's played 12 straight playoff games with at least 71 receiving yards. He has truly saved his best for last and for Taylor Swift. Next up, George Kittle, more than 49.5 receiving yards. The 49ers offense was characterized by its efficiency and ability to spread the ball around in the NFC Championship game, with minimal contributions from George Kittle, who only had 2 catches for 27 yards on 3 targets. Deebo Samuel was the focus of the passing game plan, but still, George Kittle played 97% of the snaps. Kittle's also gone over 60 receiving yards in 7 of his last 11 games, including 7 of the 49ers' 9 home games played this season. The Chiefs rank 8th in targets to tight ends this season. If there's anywhere that they can be attacked, it's over the middle of the field. So I'd buy the dip on the 49ers tight end to step up in the Super Bowl. My last 2, Rashee Rice, more than 6.5 receptions. The Chiefs receiving core showed depth with contributions from rookie Rashee Rice in the AFC Championship game. Saw 9 targets for a 25% target share, caught 8 of them for 46 yards. Look, we were all over the more than on Rashee Rice's 6.5 receptions prop last week, so we're going directly back to it. Rice has 6+ catches in 7 of his last 10 games played, including 8+ catches in 4 of his last 5 games on the road. Note that the 49ers have allowed the 5th most receptions and catches to wide receivers this season, and 7 of the last 10 receivers they have faced have gone more than their receptions projections total. They're a volume passing defense, so expect Rice to get peppered with targets. Just don't forget the salt. Last but not least, Brandon Ayuk, less than 4.5 receptions. Ayuk made the most of his opportunities in the NFC Championship game, catching 3 passes for 68 yards, including a long of 51 yards for a touchdown, demonstrating his big play ability and focus on the ball that was tipped in the air. He didn't catch that one for a touchdown, but he caught a touchdown on the following play. Brandon Ayuk saw 8 targets overall for a 27% target share with a whopping 134 air yards. Look, Ayuk is always a candidate to post huge yardage totals at any point during the game, but he doesn't always rack up a ton of receptions. He only has caught 3 passes for 3 straight weeks, and the Chiefs have allowed the 6th fewest completions to wide receivers this season. I hate taking the less than on Ayuk in any capacity because I know how good of a receiver he is, but he's more likely to beat us in yardage than total catches, so I'm going to go less than 4.5 receptions for Brandon Ayuk. That's going to conclude my favorite top 10 early PrizePicks selections for the Super Bowl. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. And again, make sure you go to bettingpros.com, check out the prop bet cheat sheet to get even more action, find the highest plus EV plays for every single player playing in Super Bowl 58. And again, thanks for watching and thank you for all support all throughout the season. It's been a lot of fun. I cannot wait to see what happens next year for football, for PrizePicks, for it all. Love it. Can't wait to see what next year holds. Thanks for watching.